I suspect a little historical background would be helpful to understand the gospel. You know, Jesus is standing there in front of the crowd and he said, "Do you think that those Galileans who were murdered by Pilate while coming to the temple to offer their sacrifice, do you think they were guilty more than any other Galilean?" And it obviously refers to an incident that had occurred sometime within recent past, that there were a group of Galileans who had come to the temple to offer sacrifice, something that they all did. That was a common thing. Jewish people came to the temple all the time. There was a huge crowd every day. But right next to the temple complex, which was a 20-acre complex, it was a very big complex. It was one of the most unusual places in the ancient world. It really was. But right next to it, Herod, also known as the Great, not because he was a great guy, but because he was a great builder. He wasn't a very nice guy, I got to tell you that. But Herod had built this fortress for the Romans that overlooked the temple complex. And so something happened when these Galileans had come to the temple to offer sacrifice. There was some sort of riot, and Pilate ordered all those Galileans shot down with arrows by the Roman soldiers who could see clearly into the temple area. And as a result, they died. Then, obviously, sometime around that, there was an incident where the tower at Siloam, a place that there were baths where people came and washed before they went up to the temple to pray. They cleansed themselves. It was at the pool of Siloam that this tower that had stood next to it obviously collapsed and killed 18 people. And you know, the assumption is that when things go wrong, that, well, it's obviously God punishing, right? You know, and when things go right, it's God rewarding. Don't we think that? I think a lot of people do. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've been in the hospital where people will have gotten a diagnosis that was dire, and they'll say to me, "Father, I don't know what I did that God is punishing me," or, you know, "Why is God doing this to me?" As if God somehow pulls all these little strings and makes things happen in our life. You know, some people have that image of God as somehow operating like a marionette puppeteer, pulling all the strings and making things happen. That's not true. You and I have free will. God never interferes with that. He respects us and loves us too much to do that. No, is there ultimate punishment? Yes. We believe that at the end of our life, we will be held accountable for the way we've lived. And those who have lived justly will go to eternal life with the Lord, and those who have not will be condemned. And how many are those? I have no clue. You know, I got to tell you, the phone was cut a few years ago, and God doesn't use cell phones anymore. So I don't know what the numbers are. But I just leave that to God because it's a whole lot easier than my trying to figure it out. But in any case, when bad things happen to me, I don't think it's from God. When good things happen, I don't think God is somehow manipulating everything to make that happen. Is God active in our life? Yes. Can God inspire us? Yes. You know, can I refuse that inspiration? Well, I have a few times, I got to tell you. But it doesn't mean that God is doing anything. It's not God forcing God that active in my life. You know, I've often thought that if the evil one really wanted to get me in trouble, let me win the lotto. Because I've known people who've won, and I've seen what it's done to them. And I'd like to think that I wouldn't be like that. You know, I would be better than that. I would be very generous. And you would love what I would do here if I won the lotto. You know, I just go crazy building, you know. But, you know, the truth is, I think I wouldn't be like that. I think I would be just as susceptible to all the temptations that afflict other people, despite all of my bravado. And so, no, I'm fortunate. I haven't won. Of course, you have to buy tickets, too, but that's... In any case, the reality is that God doesn't operate that way in our lives. God inspires, God enables, God strengthens, God encourages, God nags. And I can tell you that from firsthand. God nags, but God never pulls the strings. And it isn't like that. God is always there. The one thing that I love about that story of Moses in that first reading is God reveals his name and he simply says, I am who am. I am with you. That's the promise, is that God is with us through it all. That I am always present to you. I am always with you. Isn't that what Jesus told us as well? That even as he was preparing to leave, he told us that he would be with us always until the end of time. That's the great gift, that he's with us through it all. There are bad things that have happened in my life, but I knew the Lord was with me through that and enabled me to grow through it. Because the truth is that there are bad things that happen to us and we can grow bitter or we can grow better. And it's a choice we make. And if we do it with the Lord, if we allow the Lord to help us through those times, we can grow to become better women and men. We can grow to become the person we could be. That's the invitation. But do we screw up at times? Can't say anything about you, but I know me, and I certainly have. I certainly have. And that's why I love the second part of that gospel passage about the God of second chances. Here was something that God had expected to bear fruit, and it didn't. And the guy said, well, just give it a break. We'll just take a little more tender care. And eventually, hopefully, it will. And isn't that what God does for us all the time? Doesn't God offer us a second chance? Isn't God's mercy that we celebrate again and again, isn't that with us? God is a God of second chances. And I've got to tell you, not just second chances, but sometimes third chances and fourth chances and 75th chances and 977th chances. No, the great gift is that God always is offering to us. He extends his hand to us again and again, enabling us, even when we have failed, to stand up and to walk with him and to continue our journey through this life in his love. We celebrate that this third Sunday of Lent, this God of third and fourth and 15th chances, this God who always is open to embrace us, to lift us up. Even though life can be difficult at times, I've said in my own life, when things have gone bad, why, Lord, are you letting this happen to me? I thought we had something together, and he, at one point early in my life, reminded me, I was praying about something, and he said, Dave, I'll take care of you the same way I took care of my son. It wasn't a promise that we would be spared suffering or difficulty or struggle or loss or pain, but that he would be with us through it all. That's the promise. And sometimes we get that confused. In the end, God is always with us, always extending that hand, offering it to us again and again, so that when we fall, he will help us up and continue on that journey faithfully until we come to share in the fullness of his life. The strangest thing about God is God never gives up on us. We may give up on him, but he will never give up on us. Thanks be to God.